work this week because what's happening is that the class before this has been going so long that the video hasn't finished rendering before our class is done. It's so slow. So it wouldn't let me render our last class. So I'm sorry about that. I hope that doesn't cause any problems. Okay, so we're recording now. Okay, cool. Hello. Okay, I got my coffee. Ready to go. So what we're going to do today, so we're working on this clock project. What I'm going to do today is I've got some exercises for you, and I'm going to try to, I'm basing this on all of the individual meetings that we had and looking at your sketches. I'm trying to go over the specific things that you guys needed in order to do your project. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to share screen. So the first thing I'd like just to do, just kind of a warm up based on what we did last class. So if you go to exercises 316, the first exercise is to make a second 10. So, as a refresher, some of the things you're going to have to do to make this work is you're going to have to translate to the middle, and you're going to have to rotate based on the seconds. So you're going to have to map the seconds to the angle of rotation. So let's just review real fast, how to get you started on this. So if you remember, the first thing we want to do is translate it so that 0, 0 is in the middle of the screen. So we're going to say translate width divided by 2, height divided by 2. So I've translated to the middle of the screen. And then, first thing I need to do is change, I like to do this, change the angle mode to degrees, because I don't think in radians. I don't even know what radians are. The default is radians that have something to do with sine, cosine, things like that. I never took trigonometry or calculus or anything like that. So I have no idea how to deal with that. So next, next we're going to rotate the canvas. So I'm going to say rotate. This is just, I'm just doing a single, just rotated line. You're going to be sort of animating this. So I'm going to say rotate 45. And now when I draw a line, say 0, 0, 0, 200, I get a diagonal line like that. So you're going to start with translate. You're going to go to rotate. And this right here, this 45, you're going to want to make that a variable. I usually call it angle. You can call it whatever you want, but you're going to make a variable. And then you're going to use the map function to calculate where it needs to be within this imaginary circle. So if you recall, the map function takes takes 5 arguments. The first one is the data that you want to be adjusted. So in this case, it would be the seconds. We're mapping the seconds. We're getting this is the range that you are getting. So we're getting from 0 to 59. Those are the numbers that are coming out of the seconds. We want it to be 0 to 360 because we don't want it to just go to 59 degrees and then go back to 0. We want it to go all the way around the circle. So that's how the map function works. So go ahead and give this a try. Let me know if you get stuck or if you just don't know where to begin, and I'll help you out. But this will be a good starter. We've got a lot to go through. I'm going to teach you timers. We're going to go over timers again. We're going to go over some color things, some text things, all of the above. So go ahead and give this a shot. And then put it in collection 10 on open processing so I can see who's done. Oh, cool. We got some people done. Okay. Okay, so one thing to notice on your seconds, I don't know, on my computer, I have the seconds visible and the clock. You can change that in the preferences, but one of the things that you'll notice is that just mapping it, it's not actually accurate. So the seconds appears as 35 and it's kind of like on the opposite of the side. And that's because when we use ankle mode, 0 degrees is actually like here to the right, or I can't remember if it's here to the right or here to the other side. So you actually have to add some degrees to get it to be um, accurate. Um, and for some reason, sometimes it's 150, 180 degrees, and sometimes it's 270. I'm going to try 270. And that does not look correct. Let's see, let's try 180. That's better. So I added 180 degrees to the angle variable, and now we have a an accurate minute hand, seconds hand. I mean, so you can go ahead and add that in. Great. I'm gonna wait for a few more people to finish up and post.
For some reason, mine, when it's the more seconds it goes, the larger it gets. I don't know why. I don't know what I did.
Okay, let's take a look.
Let me save it.
And let's see, where are you? Yeah, save it.
Uh,
Did you save it?
yes, it should be the first one, the last one. Yeah, that
There we go. Okay. Looks good to me.
It's funny. It starts really small and then it goes like larger. I don't know why. I don't know
Oh,
what.
the line is getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, okay. Oh, because you have the angle as one of the values of the line. If you just change that to 0, it won't, because that variable is different every time around the circle. So that's why it's extending and extending. So if you just change that to 0, you should be fine.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Joaquin. Okay, cool. So let you take the so let angle, I'm going to start it at 0 and I want to rotate at angle. This is the one we just did. And we're going to say angle equals map seconds 0 to 59, 0, 360. I think actually it's technically is 359 because we start at 0. I should probably be more specific about that. And then I'm going to add 180 to that so that it's accurate. And now I've got, yeah, so it's accurate now. Okay, so that's how we do that one. So the next thing I want to go over are timers. So you don't always want to just map something exactly to the seconds or the minutes or the hours. Maybe you want an event to trigger after a minute or after a second or something like that. So how do we create a timer that's just going to, trigger something each time around? So so what I'm going to do here is there's a couple steps we need to go through to do this. And hold on just a second. My cat is getting into something. It might be bad. Stop it. Okay, sorry about that. He was eating a bread bag. Yeah, not good. Okay, so we need, specifically, we're going to need 2 different variables. One called timer, and then one called interval. And interval is going to be how long you want the timer to go. So I'm going to say 1,000 because this is going to be in milliseconds. So 1,000 would be 1 second. And so first I'm going to just, so the first thing we want to do is set the timer. So we did this last week. So what you're doing is you're making a timer. The timer is always going to be set 1 second before the milliseconds, and then it's going to wait for the milliseconds to catch up, and then it's going to reset to another second ahead of the milliseconds. And every time the milliseconds catch up to the timer, it resets again. So you have this trigger every single second. So I'm going to start the timer out 1 second before the milliseconds. So I'm going to say milliseconds plus interval. And then down here, I'm going to put the code that's going to reset the timer every time through. So I'm going to say if the timer is less than the milliseconds, meaning the milliseconds have finally caught up. And I'm just going to send this to the console. And then we also want to reset the timer. So timer, and it's the same exact code as when we first set the timer. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it down here. And now I'm going to test this. So I'm getting tick, 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 tick. And notice it's just doing it once. It's not doing it the entire second because we reset the timers right away. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. So one of them is to set off like an animation or something like that. So what if we had, and I have an example of this in Canvas where we have this ball going back and forth and it takes 1 second for it to get across and then back again and 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. So we're using the timer to switch the animation from one direction to the other. So to do that, we're going to need to keep track of which direction we're going so that we can switch directions when the timer goes off. So I'm going to make a variable called move right. I'm going to start it out as true. And so this is a Boolean variable. Remember, Booleans are only true or false. And I want this Boolean to change from true to false whenever the timer goes off. So that's pretty easy. We can just put it inside of this code right here. So every time the timer goes off, we're going to switch it from true to false or from false to true. And the way we do this is move right. And we're going to do this. We're going to say exclamation point move right. And what that does is exclamation point means not. So whatever it is, it's going to not be whatever it was, if that makes sense. So if it's true, this is going to change it to false. If it's false, it's going to change it to true. So it's a great way to set Booleans back and forth. So let's send this to console and make sure it's working. Let's look here. So we should get true, false, true, false, true, false. That's great. So now we can use that to send it into one direction and then another direction. And we would do that with a simple if statement. So we're going to say if, oh, first we need to make a variable to control the X of the ball. So I'm going to say ball X. If move right equals true. I'm going to show you a shortcut here. You don't have to necessarily say move right equals true. If you just put the word move right, it means the same thing. So if move right is the same thing as saying if move right equals true. So I'm just going to say if move right. So if it's moving right, then I want to map. Oh shoot, what am I mapping? Oh, I skipped a step here. We're using the milliseconds to make this happen. We're not mapping the seconds or anything like that. We're mapping the milliseconds. So the numbers that we get from the milliseconds, as we know, are 0 on to infinity. And that doesn't help us very much with what am I saying? With moving the ball, because then it's just going to go off the screen forever. So we want a way to take that timer and the milliseconds and reduce it down to 0 through, let's say, 1,000, because that's our interval. We want to go 0 to 1,000. Well, one way we can do that is to, that's Apple Console. We take the timer minus the milliseconds. So it'll be at 1,000, and it'll, because at first the timer is 1,000 milliseconds ahead of milliseconds, and then it's going to keep getting smaller and smaller. So you're going to start at 0 and then go up to 1,000, and then it's going to reset again. So let's take a look at what that looks like. And we should be getting numbers between 0 and 1,000. So you can see it starts out at 1,000, it goes down to 0, and it starts. This is great. This is what we want. If we can get numbers that reset each time through, that's great. That's what we want to use. Something that has just a finite range to it. So this is what we want to use. Milliseconds, timer minus milliseconds is going to give us values between 1 and 1,000. So that's where we want to say if move right. If move right is true, we're going to say ball x equals map timer minus milliseconds. I could create a variable for that, but I'm just not. I'm just going to type it in. And we're getting a value between 1 and 1,000. And what we really want is the value between, 0 and 1,000. We want a value between 0 and the width of the screen, because we want the ball to go to the side and then come back again. So 0 to width. So that's going to change ball x, 0 to width. Otherwise, we want it to go in the other direction. So else, meaning move right is false, we're going to say ball x equals map timer minus milliseconds. And then we're still getting values between 1 and 1,000. But in this time, we want it to count down instead of up. So we just switch 0 and width. So this time we say width and then 0. So we're getting values between the width and 0 instead of 0 and the width. And then now all we need is to draw that ball. So ball x, see height divided by 2, you get 40. Okay, fingers crossed if this works. No, what did I do wrong? It's starting all over again.
You forgot a 0.
I did where?
You put 100 instead of 1,000 on the second ball X.
Okay, let's see if that does it. There we go. Oh, thank you, Gabrielle. Does this make sense? I think I went kind of fast. Is anyone kind of confused? Do you have any questions?
Why is it timer minus milliseconds?
Good question, because that's going to give us 0 through 1,000, and then actually it's like 1,000 through 0. Because if you think about it, the timer is always 1 second or 1,000 milliseconds greater than the milliseconds. So if the timer is 3,000, the milliseconds is 2,000, that gives you 1,000. And as the milliseconds get larger, the space is less between them. So it's going to start out at 1,000, and then it'll be like 900, and then it'll be like 800 as the milliseconds get closer and closer to the timer. So that's what's giving us numbers between 1,000 and 0, which is what's making this happen.
And if you wanted to change it to minutes, it would be the number would increase, right?
Yeah, so I would just change this. If I wanted minutes, I would say 59,000. And now I lost my ball. Oh, I gotta change this now to, I shouldn't have put 1,000 in here. I should have put interval. That would be smarter. Interval. And now I should have a ball that's gonna take a minute to get all the way across the screen. And you could set it for 5 seconds. You could set it for whatever you want. You could set it for a year. That would be a really long number. But if you're doing hours, it's going to be a really large number. You just have to calculate how many milliseconds in 1 hour. So this ball will take a minute to get all the way across the screen. So those are the main parts. We need something that's going to do a tick, tick, tick. It's going to, the timer is going to go off once, and then it's going to wait for another second, and it's going to go off again. We need some sort of Boolean that's going to switch it from one state to the next, back and forth. And then we need to, map that to the number that we want to get from it. And then we use that number when we draw the ball. I guess I didn't need angle mode degrees in here. I'm not making a line. I'm just doing a ball back and forth. But you can apply this to all sorts of things. You can apply this to angles that are, some of you have something that's rocking back and forth. Then you would apply it to the angle, and you just need to constrain that angle from, whatever this number is to that number. That's how you would do that. So I have a quick exercise for you. Well, I say quick, but I don't know how long it'll take. And what I would like you to do is do something very similar to this. This one here. So using a timer, make a ball that grows larger and smaller, expands and contracts. So expanding takes a second, contracting takes a second. So you're going to use a similar timer, but you're just going to have a different visual output. So I'll go ahead and put this code back up so you can reference it. And so go ahead and give that a shot. Good job, Layla. That looks good. Got Joaquin. Very nice. Wyatt. Perfect. Gabrielle, good job. Okay. Looks like a lot of you are there. Don't worry if you haven't finished yet. You have time to do these still. You can always go back and watch the recording of this. I want to move on because we have a lot to go over, because I want to touch on basically a lot of the issues that are going to come up with your what I'm trying to say, your projects. Yeah, that's what I want to say, projects. Yeah. So some of this might apply to you, some of it might not. But the next thing that I want to go over is something called concatenation. And we're going to do a little exercise about that. So I'm going to create a new sketch. And this has nothing to do with timers or anything like that. Nothing at all. So what concatenation is, if you remember, there's various types of variables. So we've been using variables that are numbers, but a variable can also be a Boolean, as we know, so true or false. A variable, we can make a color into a variable in P5. It has a special color variable that we've used. So one of the other variables is a string. So it's text, so it's a string of characters. And it always comes in between quotes. So concatenation is when you take various strings and you maybe combine them with certain variables and things like that into something that you could print out either in the console or something like that. And the way we do this is I'm going to create a variable called text. And right down here, what I want to do is, in this case, I want to print out what this exercise is going to be is you're going to make a clock that prints out the time in a string like this. So right here. So let's do a simple version of this. So I could just say text, and let's do the minutes. Let's do the seconds. So much more fun. Seconds, width divided by 2, height divided by 2, and let's see what we get. Oh, text. Let's, you know what, I shouldn't use the word text because it's a function. Let me turn that off for now. Okay, so we're getting numbers. We can't see those. Let's say font size 50. Oh, that's CSS. Okay, 50. What did I do? Isn't that, oh, it's not font size, it's text size. Okay, that's better. I'm also gonna align it in the middle. I think it's all caps. Let's find out. No, text align. Oh, test align. Text align. There we go. Now it's more in the middle. Sorry, I'm picky about things like that. Okay, so we're getting the seconds, but what if we want to add some context to that and we want to, say something like the seconds are, some text before that. But we can do that and we would put the text in between quotes. Strings of characters always go in between quotes. So I'm going to say the seconds are, and then we're going to add the plus sign, and that's the operator that makes concatenation work. So it's going to take this string and then add on the value of that variable. The seconds are. So one thing I didn't do, I forgot to do, is add a space after R. And then run it again. The seconds are, and so that becomes one long string. The seconds become a part of the string. Let's say I wanted a period at the end to make it a full sentence. I would just do another plus sign, and then I would say make a period in between quotes. And now we have a period at the end there. And it's pretty simple, really. That's how concatenation works. You just start stringing things together and using the plus sign to put them all in line like that. So what I would like you to do is create this right here using the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. But there's one trick to it that you're going to have to figure out. You're going to have to use a variable for hours, the minutes, and seconds. You're going to have to add a colon in between each one using concatenation. But there's a problem here. And the problem is that if the seconds are only 1 through 9, you're only going to get the number 1 through 9. And that's not how we read time. We read time, it would be 09, 03, something like that. So you're going to have to create a variable that, some sort of variable that holds the text for both the seconds and the minutes, and adds on a zero if the text is less than 10. So you're going to need an if statement, and you're going to need a variable to hold the text that you're going to, convert from the function variable to some sort of other variable, if that makes any sense at all. So go ahead and give that a shot. And let's see what you come up with. Okay. Oh, stop for a second. I forgot to go over something else. Okay, so pull yourself away. And with this, we also want to make the hours go between, we want it to be a 12-hour clock. All right. So we need some way of converting, because it's a 24-hour clock. We need some way of converting it to a 12-hour clock. And that's pretty simple. I'm just gonna sort of show you what it is. Basically, if you think about it, you're gonna need some variable that holds the value of the hours, because the hour is going to change depending on if it's 3 o'clock or if it's 14 o'clock. You know, it's going to be needs to be converted into something. So the way I would do this is I would say let our text create a text, a variable there. And then I would say if hour is greater than 12, and I'll let you figure out what to put in here. How would you convert 13? 13 would be 1 o'clock. So how do you change 13 into 1? What kind of math operation do you have to put there? So you would have our text equals, you know, whatever you need to do to compute to make 13 into 1. Otherwise, the hour text, so if it's not larger than 12, then all you have to say is the hour text is just the regular hour. So I'll let you compute this part, but that's how you would change it to a 12-hour clock. Okay, enough said. Okay, so Joaquin, it looks like you haven't added a 0 before. See how these numbers are singular? If it's below 10, it needs to have a 0 in there. So you're going to need some sort of variable that stores a string of numbers. So you're going to have to use concatenation. So you're going to do something like if the minutes or the seconds are less than 10, add a 0 on top, and then use this variable as the text that you're going to print out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try right now. See if I get it.
Layla's got it. That's great.
Is there a way to center the text from the center, like rect mode center?
I just use text align. It looks pretty
Oh.
centered to me.
Oh, I just kind of played around. I did like -150.
Oh,
Forgot.
yeah, no,
The align was a thing.
yeah, text align center is what I used. It's right where, no, that's not it. It's right here, text line center. There's various typography things you can use. I think you can adjust the baseline and things like that. I think you can make a text area. I haven't done a ton of work with that, so you'd have to reference the reference.
Okay, thank you.
Good, you got it, Gabrielle. Good job.
I'm having trouble getting the 0 in front of mine.
Yeah, it's been a while and not a lot of you have posted, so I'm guessing a lot of you might be a little stumped. So let me go over it. Let me just kind of clue you in into what's going to happen here. So just putting, if I, let me comment this out here. By just putting our plus a colon plus the minutes. And most of, it looks like plus a colon plus the seconds. If I do just this, oops, what did I do? That looks right to me. Why is it giving me an error? Oh, I didn't give it a place to go. What? Oh, there we go. No, that's correct. What am I doing wrong here? It keeps giving me an error.
Is it because I use the double quotes instead of the single quote?
No, it shouldn't be a difference. I always use double. Did I misspell second?
I think you forgot a plus sign before second.
Oh, the plus sign. Yeah. Thank you. Good job. Okay. Okay, so if I do this, I mean, we'll have to wait 30 seconds to see, but I'm gonna get, once it's 1, I'm only gonna get the number 1, not gonna get a 0 before the 1. So I can't just put the variable in there, obviously. I've got to convert it to something else. Here, we'll wait 5 more seconds and you can see what I'm talking about. There. So that's not what I want. I want a 0 before it. So I'm going to have to use some sort of I'm going to have to change. I have to change it to include a 0 before it. So I'm going to make a variable called second text. And make a variable called minute text because I need to do it for both of them. Min text. And then down here, I'm going to need some if statement to check and see if it's less than 10. So I'm going to need to say if, I'll have to do this for both the minutes and seconds. So if the seconds are less than 10, then the second text is going to be concatenated. So we're going to have to say, we're going to put the 0 into quotation marks because that changes it from a value, an actual numerical value, into just a character. It has no value like that. It's just a character. So we've turned it into text. And we're going to say plus the seconds. Otherwise, just make the second text equal the seconds the way they are. So if I do that, let's see. Oh, I've got to change seconds here. Second text, see if I can do this within the next 6 seconds. There we go. So now I've got a 0 in front of that. So instead of putting the actual seconds down here, I've converted it into a string with a 0, or a string without a 0, and I'm using that variable down here instead. So then I would just do the same thing for the minutes. If minutes are less than 10, min text equals 0 plus 0 plus minute, else min text equals minute. We won't see it until, for another, 40 minutes, but that should work as well. And then I just have to make sure that I change this variable down here to min text. Now, the other issue of the hour, we can't really test it right now, but we have an hour text variable as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change hour to hour text. And if the hour is less than 12, then it would just be the normal hour. If it's greater than 12, so like if it's 13, it should be 1. So we would say hour minus 12. And so if we wait around another 49 minutes, it should change to 1 o'clock. We just can't test that quite. We'll come back. We'll come back. We'll probably still be here at 1 o'clock. So, so that's how you would solve that. I'll give you a few minutes to, if you need to copy this down, that's fine. So this can be very handy when you've got a lot of variables going on and you want to check them in the console, you can use console.log and you can you can give them labels. So if you were checking the hour checks, you could put hour colon in quotation marks, plus sign, and then hour text. And then you might have various variables that you're monitoring. So concatenation can be really helpful in debugging things. Okay. So I'm going to move on from this. I don't have any more exercises for you, but I do want to demo some stuff that a lot of you are will be going through with your projects. So I've posted a lot of code here actually down at the bottom. And I want to talk about, we've got a seconds hand. Okay, let me look at this seconds hand. So this is a seconds hand that goes a lot smoother than the tick, 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 tick that we did today. And the reason is using that we made a timer that went between 0 and 1,000. I just made this as between 0 and 59,000, so it would be a minute. And I'm using that minute value. I'm mapping the angle to that 0 to 1,000 to rotate. So it's rotating instead of on every second, it's constantly rotating because the timer, well, I named it minval, is going between 0 and 1,000 constantly with every frame. So it's using that value instead of the seconds. So it's going a lot smoother. So it's kind of a better experience. So I put that code in there. If you want to, min value stands for minute value. So it's not that, different from what we did today. It's just taking that value, the 0 through 1,000, and using that to map it to, it's not 0 through 1,000, it's 0 through 59,000, sorry. If I did this as 1,000, it would go around in 1 second. Yeah, so there's code for that there if you want to use it. I also went ahead and made an entire analog clock for you guys. You're welcome. Let's see, let me pull up the editor here. Okay, so this has an hour hand, so it's 12, so it's up there. It's actually 12:30, so it's a little bit over. It's almost 12:30, so that one's not quite down below. So we've got an hour hand and minute hands, and they're all going nice and smoothly. You could easily make this with a tick, tick, tick on your own. you would just do the same thing as you did with the seconds hands today. We just do them with a minute hand, you do them with an hour hand. So you just have different intervals. So this one's actually accurate because I in the very beginning, I started it at exactly the second. So I took the interval and just took away the seconds so it would start in the right location. And then one thing I had to do is all these are rotating at different speeds. So I had to do a push and a pop for each of the hands. So first I translated it to the middle. And then for each of these, for each of the hands, I did a push and a pop. And I calculated, I didn't want everything, some of them I wanted to go between 0 and, the minute hand, the seconds hand is going to go between 0 and 59,000. So I need a separate interval variable for the seconds. I need a separate interval variable for the minutes, because there are this many milliseconds in an hour. And then there are this many milliseconds in 12 hours. Did I change this to 12 hours? Oh yeah, I did, because I made it a 12-hour interval. Okay, that's how that works. So it's going to do the same thing. It's going to take the interval minus the milliseconds, or the second start, which is basically an interval, minus the milliseconds. So it's going to constantly be changing from 0 to 59,000. And then I just map that with the interval, and then, use that as angle and drew the line. And then I did the same thing here. It just has a different interval and a different start time. And then I did the same thing here, push pop, different interval, different start time. And that's what makes this work. So it's an accurate analog clock. And I also had to add 180 degrees because it doesn't start at 0. 0 isn't at the top automatically for some reason, maybe because we're converting from radians to degrees. I don't know. So that's how that works. So you're welcome to use that code for your projects. The other thing I wanted to go over is lerp color. So we did something where the color of the background changed according to where the mouse was, but it did it on the pure spectrum. And sometimes you don't want that. You want a gradient that's customized. The colors shift from one to the other, and specifically that. So what we can do is we can use something called lerp color. Let's go take a look at the reference and see what it says. So basically, you give it 2 different colors and you tell it to sort of interpolate somewhere in between those 2 colors. So you, right here in this one, they've got a color called from, they've got a color called to, and they're going from the from and to the to. And then this next value here is going to be 0 through 1. So 30.33 will be 33% of the way. So if you think about, like, when you're an illustrator and you're making gradients, you've got on that bar there, you've got one color on one end and one color on the other end, and there's that little arrow in between that you can adjust. That's what this is. This is saying at this point on the air, at this point in the spectrum, this is the color I want to happen at this point in the spectrum. And this is the color I want to happen at this point in the spectrum. So if we were to do this, I hope I don't fall on my face here. No. Yeah, okay, I'll leave. So in this case, I would make a variable for 2 colors. So I would say let C1 and C2. And I also want just the variable to hold the color that's being changed. I'm just going to call that one, and I'll start it at 0, otherwise I'll get an error. And I'm going to set C1 and C2. Oops. I don't want to go and look up colors, so I'm just going to steal the colors from here. So this is C1 and this is C2, color 1, color 2. And then what I'll do here is, how am I going to do this? Let's make it so the background changes according to where the mouse is. And it goes between one and the other. So in that case, what I would do is I'm going to change the background. So I want to use C. And oh my gosh, I hope I do this right. Oh my gosh. So C would be lerp color C1, C2, and we don't want to just put mouse X because it's a value between 1 and 0. So we're going to need to interpolate that. So I'm going to make a variable called enter. And I'm going to say enter equals, and we're going to map mouse X, and the values we're getting there are 0 between the width, because we're just going to use the X axis, and we want the values between 0 and 1. And then here on the place along the spectrum that you want the color to be, we're going to use enter for interpolate. And then let's see if that works. So I'm starting at this color and I'm changing to this color. Starting at this color, changing to this color. So I'm customizing it more than just the standard old spectrum where you only get the colors in the order that they come from. So this can be really useful if you want to make a gradient, because there is no specific function to make a gradient. What you have to do basically to make a gradient is you have to draw line on top of line on top of line, one pixel after the other, and you basically change the color of them as you go down. So it would be something like, let me get rid of these. So we would do something like make a loop to draw all those lines for, Let I equals 0. Okay, hold on just a second. Someone's at my door. Okay, sorry about that. I had a delivery. Okay. So I was making a loop that's gonna loop all the way down the screen. Let's see if I do this right. As long as I is less than the height, I think. So it's gonna go down the screen. Then I plus plus, it's incrementing by 1. We're gonna set the color to, we're gonna map it. And I'm just gonna do grayscale at first. Map it to I 0 to height. And we want 0 to 255. And then fill seed. And then line. And then what is this line going to be? It's going to be at 0. 0 width. And then 0 I. Is that it? Let me try that. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, I'm just gonna go to this one I already created. There it is right there, linkable. What was it? 0 I to width I. Okay, all right. Oh, and it wasn't fill, it was stroke. Sorry. Yeah, Maggie, shh. It was stroke, not width, of course, because I'm drawing a line. So in this case, I'm not doing grayscale. I'm using lerp color to go between 2 different colors, and I'm using that interpolate variable again. So this is how you would make a gradient in P5. Yeah. So that's how you use lerp color. It could be really nice. Make some nice effects that way. Pretty gradients. Everyone likes gradients, right? They're pretty. Have I covered everything? We've done timers. We did concatenation. We went over lerp color. We switched the clock from 24 to 20 to 12. We did a seconds hand. What else? What else are you wanting to know in order to execute your projects? This is your chance.
For mine, how would you add an image on top of the project using time as well?
You would just you would add the image like we did with the media project, and then it's just a matter of, you know, like we made the timers where the ball goes back and forth, things like that, because you're going to be moving yours across the screen. So what you would do is you would just, instead of drawing an ellipse or a rectangle, you would be drawing an image. So you would use the image function to draw it at that X and Y along however you're rotating. Does that make sense? It's the same thing as drawing a shape, except you're drawing an image. It's just about the X and Y of where you draw the image. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And in your case, you're gonna do a lot of push and pops to get the different elements in your sketch to move. Like you have a sun, I think, and you have a car. So you're gonna use a lot of push and pop to get them to rotate at different speeds. Like
I'm
that.
actually gonna do the eye.
Oh
do you-
yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how you would do it. What other questions do you guys have? I know this has been a lot and your brain's probably fried. Nothing? All right. Well, as you're working on this, as always, you get stuck and you want to go over stuff, text me. We will Zoom. I can go into open processing and show you, what I'm changing and how I'm debugging the code. And I'm happy to do that. I like doing that. I swear. I really like debugging students' code. I'm like, I don't know. It's just a weird quirk I have. Just trying to figure out all the problems. Like, you ever have like a necklace chain or something that's all knotted up, and I love sitting there and trying to pick it apart and undo the knots. Like, I actually like that. So don't be shy in contacting me, because I would, I'll put it aside. If I can put aside what I'm doing, I'll get online with you as soon as possible. If I can't, we'll make an appointment. But sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But I do really like doing it. So I just wanted you to know that. Okay, that was a lot for today. So I'll post the recording of this as soon as it renders. It might take like an hour or so. But you'll have that for reference. And I guess that's all for today. Oh, Jamie, can you hang around for a minute or two? I wanted to talk about your project.
Sure.
Okay. All right, everybody. I can't wait to see what you do.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Hey, Jamie.
Hi.
So I've been working on getting all those circles into place and moving. I am having the hardest time with it. I don't know what, it makes sense in my mind what I'm trying to do. And I'm getting all the right numbers that I should be able to use to draw the circles. And it's not working. I've spent hours on it. It's been so frustrating. So I'll keep working. I just want to let you know, I'll keep working on it, but I want to get it to a point where you can work on it. But you can't really work on it until I show you how to draw all those circles. I'll try more this afternoon. But if I can't get it to work, I swear it doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, I've tried so many different ways and I'm just not thinking through it correctly. I don't know what it is. It's making me feel really stupid. But we might have to go with like a different design idea. But I'll keep working on it today, and then I'll let you know where I'm at. And if we need to change the design up at all.
I think all my previous designs were all circles. Let me look.
Yeah. Do you want to send them to me? Do you have sketches of the other one?
I have, let me see if I can share my screen.
Yeah.
What were my other two? Okay, let me just share my screen. So I had this one, this compass looking one,
Uh-huh.
and then I had this space one as well. And then I wanted this center one to be growing, like the sun rays.
Uh-huh.
And then these will just change accordingly. I think I wanted this one to be seconds and then minutes and then hours.
See, this would be a lot easier to do because, you know, you saw the analog clock that I made with all the 3 hands to it. The only difference here is that you would be drawing a circle at the end instead of a line.
Mhm.
So, and then you would just draw some circles for the orbit. And
And
then
then the sun would be the circle that we did that grows.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that would be pretty easy to execute. And I think the other one, the compass one,
Mhm.
would kind of be the same, you know,
Mhm.
because you just have this one. I figured out how to make a bunch of circles in a line. I just couldn't figure out how to get it to, you know, light up all of them up until the seconds or the minutes that they're.
Oh,
And
okay.
I can't figure out. It's so frustrating because it's, you know, in my mind, the logic makes sense, but it just doesn't work. I don't know what I'm
Okay.
doing wrong. But one of these would be easier if that's okay.
Okay.
Which one do you like better?
I was gonna go with this orbiting one.
Yeah, that one looks really great. Okay. In that case, do you have an idea about how you would do that?
I was gonna start with the sun first, and then
Yeah.
once that's done, I'm gonna use what we did today, the exercise, and then after that, I'll probably start with this seconds. No, this one will be minutes rotating, and then I think from there I would get the hang of it.
Yeah, I think just go to that code that I posted. It's called Analog Clock. It's on the exercises page, and that's got all the push and the pop and the rotation in there. And instead of drawing a line, you would just draw a circle like away from the 0, 0 origin point, and you
Okay.
would rotate around. And then you just have to draw circles.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So should we switch to this?
If that's okay, that would be a lot easier. I'm still gonna try with the other one. I mean,
You don't have to.
it kept me up last night.
I'm sorry, but thank you for all the dedication and hard work.
Oh, that's how obsessed I get about this stuff. Is I have to figure it out. I have to. So I'll work on it a little bit more, but I'm kind of running out of ideas. So I'll let you know.
All right. So when do you think you'll let me know so maybe I can hop on working on this?
I'll let you know by like, I don't know, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you though. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. You know, I thought it's a beautiful design. I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
All right.
See you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.